Hello, this is Patrick McCaffrey with the HemaCast, and we're here with IGX, the Iron Gate exhibition, ahead of the event happening this weekend. We're here with Jeff Tsai and Olivier Dupuis. Olivier was going to be one of our keynote lecturers at IGX this year, but unfortunately travel from France to our camping event was not to be. So instead, Jeff will be interviewing Olivier today about the 1561 Meyer treatise that he rediscovered in the Bavarian National Museum in Munich. Olivier has been practicing and teaching HEMA since 2001. He also participates in research efforts in the discipline with the addition of treatises and the publication of articles dealing in particular with the place of fencing in European society. And with the introduction out of the way, I'll turn things over to Jeff and Olivier.
All right, thanks very much, Patrick. Olivier, you and I met many years ago now at the annual Dijon HEMA event. Thank you very much, Fabrice, for hosting that as always, and introducing us, where I believe you were at the time giving a lecture on the city of Strasbourg, home to one Joachim Meyer, known amongst historical European martial artists or HEMA practitioners as the author of one of the most well-known and technically detailed books in the Kunst des Fechtens tradition, or the art of German combat. So before we shine a spotlight on Meyer himself, I wanted to turn that spotlight on you, Olivier. So while I know you from, for the benefit of folks who have not gotten a chance to unfortunately meet you, from giving well-researched lectures on Meyer and the broader fencing tradition of his time to then putting those traditions actually into practice, what would you like to highlight about your notable pursuits, past and present, in HEMA?
Hello, Jeff, and hello, Patrick. First of all, I would like to say that I would love to being able to camp with you this year, but unfortunately, this is not possible. For my part, I start fighting with steel weapon at a very young age through historical reenactment. If I remember correctly, I started in '92. I also took advantage of my study period to learn a French martial art, la canne. This is nowadays a modern sport, but derivated from the self-defense from the 19th century. And it is a sport in which I was able to practice in competition at a very high level, but also to have the opportunity to obtain an official teacher grade. And this helps me a lot when I had to do my first lessons on teaching on HEMA, actually. And at the same time, I discovered the HEMA mostly the treatise with the beginning of the forum on internet. And I devoted myself to HEMA since 2010. Then I'm teaching on doing research, both of them from that time. And to be more accurate, my research work was especially launched by Mike Cartier, an American guy you probably know, who invited me in 2005 to seek information on Meyer at the Strasbourg archives. I never been there, never done that at that time, and he has a very good intuition, and I found there many biographical information, and never stopped which is probably the biggest treasure he gives to me. I never stop mixing research and teaching on HEMA subject, and I would like to thank him for that. In reality, my contribution have mainly consisted in making available information drawn from primary sources coming from various archives or libraries in the world, mostly in France, but not only. I've been in Switzerland and in Germany too. And to work on primary documents, and as a teacher, I'm more specialized with the German longsword, as many people in the world and in America too. But I've been able to teach the various kind of weapon styles, size and period. For example, I've done teaching. I've done a lesson on 19th century French boxing, but I also in a Meyer event I hold in 2020, I hold a workshop on the long pike from Meyer. And actually, I'm probably done workshop from material from the 13th century to 19th century onwards. This variety of material available in NEMA allowed me to keep the same passion for this discipline for 20 years now.
Yeah, keeping passion on anything for that amount of time is definitely something that's not always easy. So that definitely speaks a lot to I think HEMA in general. Um, it is to me a bittersweet reminder of how folks like Mike Cartier, who are no longer with us, nevertheless still continue to have a lasting positive impact on our community, the HEMA community, and a lot of these research and um, practice traditions today. So, Mike is definitely missed. Um, and so having heard a little bit about your background there, let's move the spotlight from you over to Joachim Meyer himself. As you can see, based on my shirt here, I have a personal affection for Meyer, as he was one of the first detailed technical sources I was exposed to back in my days, first getting into HEMA as well. You and I are similar in the sense that I think neither of us are academics, and yet that's one of the great things about HEMA, right? The fact that folks who are not academics yet can be this close to history and contribute to research, both in terms of the content as well as practice. And so back in those days, I was exposed to the content of Meyer in the days of the Higgins Armory Sword Guild with Dr. Geoffrey Forgang, who was at the time still working through translating the work, while simultaneously also interpreting and exploring those techniques. Really one of those great birthplaces of HEMA. And so, at the time, kind of going through all of that, I was aware that Meyer was great and kind of unique in the sense of the not only the wide range of weapon forms that are represented, Dusak, longsword, rapier, pole weapons, dagger, wrestling, but also a good bit of pedagogical fundamentals that are often not detailed or specified in other sources in the German KDF tradition. I mean, one of my favorite things is the fact that he actually defines and describes footwork, which is often left out of KDF sources. So, over these, 20 some years, 20 plus some years, we have come a long way from translating and interpreting this printed work to now finally actually uncovering earlier manuscript versions of it, such as the manuscripts located in Lund and Rostock, and now this latest find located in Munich. So, um, what can you tell us about the general relationships between these earlier manuscripts that are believed to predate Meyer's 1570 printed work by roughly a decade?
I would like to treat separately the Rostock manuscript to the two others. It differs completely from them, both in format and composition. To tell the truth, very little if the text in this manuscript seems to be written by the hand of Joachim Meyer himself. Um, in my mind, probably only the second rapier text is on from his hand. It is the one where you have explicitly his name on the date of the manuscript. This proves, if necessary, that he had access to the ancient sources and certainly built his own system having this knowledge in mind, but he rebuilt it completely, in other words. This is probably the most important thing to take from the Rostock at this time, which is a more traditional kind of composition. The two other manuscripts conserved in Munich and Lund are very similar in many ways. They both have the same format, very close to the one of the printed manuscript, the printed book. Sorry, they both have been produced as a gift or specific orders, and they are thought out mature and very homogeneous works. They are also autonomous. By autonomous, probably understand what I mean. I mean that by these words that they are complete by themselves. From the beginning to
Got
the
it.
end,
Yeah.
they have been thought to be a complete work and described a sub part of the art that could be enough for someone who want to study it. And they should not be considered simply as intermediate stages before the publication of the book in
Hmm.
70. In my mind, this is a modern misconception to see the manuscript as draft version of the printed one. In 1561, I sincerely doubt Meyer knew he will have the chance and the opportunity to print his masterpiece 9 years later. As a son of papermaker, he certainly had such an idea in mind. He certainly have, for example, the printed book from Egenolf, which was the printer who lived in Strasbourg 40 years before.
Hmm.
And but to have this in mind does not give him the possibility to do that. There is a big gap, including a financial one, between the idea and the physical possibility.
Yeah.
And we must consider ourselves very lucky to have access to all three works simultaneously, thanks to for the digitized version. But Joachim Meyer himself, after having offered this manuscript, could no longer be satisfied with his notes and sketches.
Yeah, no, I think obviously we all are benefiting from the fact that you could no longer be satisfied with those earlier autonomous works, those standalone uh, pieces of work for whatever reason that they were generated. Yeah, so just thinking about the evolution of what was required to actually arrive at this final printed work. Um, this is what you're describing here. This is very helpful, high level context on the relationship between Meyer's works. So uh, our goal today is really just to kind of give people a little bit of context and introduction to what we would like to do as a much bigger, deeper dive follow up. In the days following the IGX event that's happening not this weekend but the following weekend, creeping up on us very quickly. Our plan is to do another webcast just like this one, but longer and deeper, where we can really get into the details of things like, what was the journey like for coming up with this work, how it might compare to other sources of the time, and yeah, lots of other little details, including Olivier, your experience realizing and ultimately laying eyes for the first time on the Munich manuscript yourself, your thoughts on how the technical content relates to Meyer's other works and how the content more broadly contributes to our understanding of the social organization of fencers and fencing masters between France, Netherlands, Germany, etc., in the 15th and 16th centuries. While we'll certainly encourage folks who are interested in this webcast to start thinking about questions, and we'll probably try to gather some of this feedback during IGX itself, so that we can, have this in preparation ahead of the broadcast. Do you have any other points that you would like to specifically tease in advance now?
Uh, a few one. It's pretty much obvious that Joachim Meyer all other fencers of its time, at least in Germany. Otherwise, we would have quite simply dozen, at least, of other fencing works in Germany dating from the end of the 16th century, but we have not. We are, in reality, this order of magnitude is valid, but rather during the 17th century. And for the most part, they concern only the adaptation into local language of fencing fashionable in Europe, mostly in Italy. And once that's said, what remains exceptional about this Strasbourg resident? Well, behind these provocative words, I think we have some answers. And or maybe hypotheses. And if they do not satisfy you, perhaps they will make you want to do your own research and try to contradict them. And this is probably the best gift you can give to me.
That's fantastic. All right. Thank you, Olivier, so much. I am super excited to be able to be a part of this conversation and to have a follow-up opportunity so we can dig deeper into Meyer's Munich manuscript with someone who is at least as much of a Meyer geek as I am. Thank you again. Back to you, Patrick.
Thank you very much, Jeff. And thank you very much, Olivier, for your time today. Olivier will be rejoining us sometime in October after IGX for a follow-up live stream. While we couldn't have Olivier at IGX in person, it's a pleasure to have him available virtually to talk about his amazing research. We will have many other instructors at IGX this year. There's still time to sign up for the event, which is an outdoor camping event in Kingston, New Hampshire, October 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Links can be found in the Twitch chat or YouTube description. If you have any questions for Olivier that you'd like us to ask during the follow-up, get in touch with IGX staff or come to the live stream and ask in the chat, and our moderator will be able to give the questions to Jeff for a Q&A. Thank you very much, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.